You see Michael Hamilton right there already making a huge name for himself in this game.
Perhaps the best in the world.
Yeah, it's definitely up for debate. He was 12-2, this amazing Icelander deck. I think he only lost one round in each format.
That is correct.
This weekend. And just what a player, just looking to put more trophies on the mantle here this weekend. But up against him is Ryan Rich with Oldham, 11-3 record. Great record this weekend as well. Really trying to cement himself in the pantheon of champions in America.
Yeah, this is where names are made. And there you see our two players. Eyes of Ice, ready to go. Both these Ice heroes stepping down into the arena, looking to battle.
And honestly, I can't wait to see how this game plays out. And this is the moment. I'm so excited for this.
There's two cards next to that Oldham. And
I think we're right.
I think Ryan agreed. I think he found that two-handed setup. Nice handshake there from the players.
There we go. I think they know each other pretty well.
And we see a bunch of Null Rune on the side of Ryan.
And I heard someone talk about this. They think that like Null Rune plus Tunic is the way to go. Like we can cut back. Heart of Ice probably not the one that we want here. Just a little bit of Null Rune as a treat.
Yeah.
And then, you still try to do your plan here because I do think your cards are going to get a little bit more taxed out of your hand than normal against Icelander here. So the extra resource every 3 turns could really come in handy.
I think that's exactly right. And we do see the Stalagmite plus Winter's Wail set up from Ryan Rich. 2 pieces of Null Rune, Feyendel Spring Tunic, and Crown of Seeds. So kind of like 3 virtual prevention on Ryan's side if you have that Crown of Seeds set up. More importantly, though, going to be able to do a little bit more blocking against this bizarre Icelander deck. And meanwhile, on Michael Hamilton's side, do you see Crown of Providence in the head slot? We've seen Michael Hamilton go that direction quite a few times this weekend.
Really good setup turn here, turn 1 for Michael Hamilton as well. No attacks, no real damage presented to Ryan Rich, but let's be real. He could do this during Ryan's turn. But getting an Energy Potion into play is a pretty good start.
Yeah, always happy to see Energy Potion when you're on the Wizards side of things. Meanwhile, Ryan showing the new face of Oldham. Just going to go ahead and attack 4-7. Looks like no go against Shenanigans this time around. Just trying to get a nice, efficient attack in, do a little arsenal in, and also save some resources should Arcane Barrier be needed.
I was going to say, is this a plan that you're going to see the Oldham player make in this kind of matchup? He's going to be like presenting an attack but still have some resources left over?
Ideally, that's how you want to play these turns. You do want to respect Icelander's damage potential on your turn, but you still need to pressure their life total. And this Enlightened Strike doing a good job of both sides.
One of your favorite cards from this set and mine, Brothers in Arms, going to come out, get a little buff. So this is going to be blocking for 4. So I think 3 damage is going to be presented over here to Michael Hamilton. It's going to go down to 33.
This is a great illustration of why I love Brothers in Arms so much. You get a 4 block out of a 1-card hand, but also able to present 3 resources. You have those 2 resources floating to threaten other things towards Ryan Rich. Ultimately not used here.
And that's it for Michael Hamilton, too, as well. Nothing from the arsenal here, so it looks like he's going to have a fair turn of an attack here. We're going to have dueling Enlightened Strikes here for the first couple turns.
Yeah, both players throwing 7 at each other to start off with. Small blocks from both.
Yeah, Endless Winter is going to go ahead and step out. You can take 4. And Ryan Rich is going to be a little ahead in life total here, especially in the early game, because his hero starts out just so much higher than Icelander. These Wizards have to be brought back a little bit, otherwise they'd be a little too good. They have to start a little bit lower than the other heroes. Oh boy, here's one of the first big salvos of the game.
This will get you lower too, Tannen. That big dominated Oakenold. Now, Michael Hamilton does have some capacity for good blocks here. We do see like a sink below in hand, so maybe a little extra block. I don't know that he can find the full 9 though. However, does have the gauntlets, does have Crown of Providence, so maybe you want to go ahead and use those in this spot.
Yeah, and I did talk to Michael a little bit about this yesterday, talking about this matchup. He's like, yeah, I do feel favored in this matchup, but he's like, again, it's flesh and blood. Anything can happen. Also, this is what he was worried about. The early turns with big crippling attacks. Anything that, like Oakenold, are the ones that can really affect him. These are the ones that can spiral the game out of control for him early.
Yeah, we know it's all about that tempo, Tannen. You seize the tempo, you take some cards out of your opponent's hand. Things can start rolling in your favor very quickly. And you see Michael Hamilton already in the tank in the very early turns of this game. I think this is actually a pretty critical juncture. You really have to decide how you're going to approach this turn. And I just don't think the blocks line up that you can realistically protect your hand here. Sink below, plus the gauntlet, plus Crown is still only 8 block. That means you're leaking 1 and you're still going to have the discard effect. So maybe just a little bit short here for Michael Hamilton, and there's no way you can afford to give up your Tunic this early.
Yeah, he's got a Heart of Findel in his hand too, so maybe he's trying to figure out a way to maximize his hand here of, pitch, do a few things, maybe get some blocks in, and Maybe only lose the last card. That way
Maybe.
you take a little less of an effect.
That's one of the problems with Oldham's on-hit effects, specifically Oakenold. It's really hard to plan through because the discard is random. So you don't really know what you're going to be left with.
You and I talk about this. I think this is the most impactful attack in the game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Tannen. There's nothing quite like facing down a fused Oakenold.
Yeah, I thought the card was wild the first time I saw it. I had this happen to me at the pre-release.
Yeah, you're like,
I had to read it multiple times. I was like, wait, what?
No
and the
way.
guy just had my opponent just had the biggest grin
I would too.
on his face. And I was like, all right, respect. This is great. I mean, I'm dead, but this is great.
Heck of a card. And looks like we're just going to take it here from Michael Hamilton. And, you know, like we said, this attack puts you between a rock and a hard place. You're losing a lot of your hand anyway. And Michael Hamilton saying, I'd rather just go ahead and lose a couple random cards and hope I can put something together on my turn.
Yeah, lose a lot of his hand here and a lot of his life. Down to 24 already. All right, so this is going to be a card randomly selected here.
And there are 2 cards chosen.
These are going to go to the bottom.
Can't quite get a peek at them, but maybe we'll see when Michael Hamilton picks
We'll
up
see what
the
he's got
cards
left over.
keeping. I think I saw Heart, Sink, and these are the ones going to the bottom.
Okay. Yeah,
So
we can't hear the players saying which ones are which, so there we go. Ryan's going to draw back up. He's got to be really happy with how the first couple turns of this game has gone.
Absolutely, absolutely. He needed to come out of the gate strong, able to do so, and a pretty nice hand here from Michael Hamilton. Going to gain a life off that Fayendel's Fighting Spirit due to the lower life total and present 7, as he loves to do.
And maybe this is part of why he was willing to let the randomization happen is maybe on average his hand was still going to be playable after 2 cards being lost.
Yeah, so
You know, what's the worst case scenario versus best?
there's some bad scenarios here. He could have gone into this turn with Heart plus Sink. I think this is probably the best scenario he can get. Maybe I actually guess the best one you could have gotten was Heart plus Fayendel's Fighting Spirit, and then you could have gained 2 life and made this attack for 7. But still, Hamilton happy with this result. Really, the key was keeping this Fayendel's Fighting Spirit.
I wonder what's in his arsenal here, too. Maybe it's a defensive react. You know, it's something we haven't seen so far, but then maybe that would have come out for Oakenold.
I'm not sure what the card is. I don't think it's a defense react, but interesting. It's been there for a few turns now, and that always gives me pause. In general, as Icelander, you want to be cycling that arsenal pretty regularly, getting that disruption on multiple turns. Hamilton not really able to do that thus far.
I'm just going to always assume it's a Wounded Bull for Hamilton.
Probably.
He's always got a Wounded Bull.
That's a safe bet. You walk up to Michael Hamilton, he like opens his jacket, it's just lined with Wounded Bulls. Another big attack here from Ryan Rich. This looks like a blue Glacial Footsteps going to be coming in for 8. I don't believe any Dominate here.
Do you see, I think, a Sink Below in Michael's hand as well here?
Yeah, Ice Eternal also ready to go.
Can you hear the footsteps, Brian?
I'm always hearing footsteps. I should get that checked out, actually. I don't think I'm supposed to be hearing them all the time.
I'm going to slowly move away from you just a tiny bit.
Probably safe. I think you're right. Sink Below, Ice Eternal. Looks like an Ether Ice Vein in hand for Michael Hamilton. So just figuring out what to block with here, what he wants to go into the next turn with. And I am intrigued by the mystery of the arsenal. I want to know what's there.
It looks like we're probably going to get a block and a Sink here. Maybe a damage is going to leak over here.
Yeah, I think we forget how good of a defensive deck Icelander is, too. It just does play defense very well. A lot of block 3s.
Let's see if he wants to sink any of the cards in his hand. Doesn't look like he does.
Yeah, pleased with the 2 left.
Yeah, 1 damage going to move over to Michael here. Going to go down to 24.
You can fade these turns as the Icelander player. You're very happy to see them. You just live in fear of the pummels, the Oakenolds, those disruptive effects.
As I was say, I got to believe this arsenal's happening this turn. Otherwise, I'd be really interested in what's in there.
Yep, just waiting for the opportunity to E-Strike. That's a card that makes sense. As we often see with Michael Hamilton, 7 damage prevented. That's his magic number. And then when things get real spicy, we're doing 8 damage.
Tunic activation here is going to make Crown of Seeds active. So going to put the arsenal on the bottom of the deck, and a 5th card is going to be drawn up to Ryan Rich's hand. So he's got a Prevention Shield of 1 here, plus the 5 cards in his hand. And
I see Terra Sunder.
I was about to say, this is a hand you may want to be keeping.
Yeah, Terra Sunder plus Footsteps, if you're able to combine that effectively, could be a lot of damage headed through as well as some disruption for Michael Hamilton.
This is one of those times where if I'm Hamilton and I'm attacking for 7 here, I want my opponent to be blocking as much as possible, and if they don't, I feel like I'm dead.
I think Ryan may be a resource short of that Glacial Footsteps backed up by Terra Sunder, because noteworthy yellow Earthlore Surge in Ryan's list. Kind of the standout card. The only yellow in the deck, 2 copies of it. So maybe not quite getting that massive tear asunder turn, but there could be other options in hand.
So I'm thinking about the Stalagmite a little bit there. It looks like he's going to go ahead and take 4 because of the Corona Seeds, right? This is a block for 2. Corona Seeds is going to stop 1. 4 is going to get through. Life Total's almost evened up at 28 to 24.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's still going to be pretty good options here for Ryan Rich when we head to
Maybe
his
even
turn.
set up for next turn as well. Maybe pocket that Terra Sunder.
Could be a setup turn. Looks like a Autumn's Touch ready to go. No, it's just a pitch here, and we're going to go ahead and fuse the Glacial Footsteps.
Slight misstep from Ryan here, too. He's going to miss that Tunic trigger on this turn.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite him in a couple turns.
A lot of pressure in these scenarios, and if you're telling me you've never missed a Tunic
I definitely
trigger,
have.
I'm calling you a liar.
Yeah, I
straight
definitely have. It's a big spots, too.
Yep.
It's hard. I think these are the times that I miss them the most, is the times where I have so much going on. Like I have 5 cards in my hand, I'm doing all the math,
ahead.
I'm planning ahead, and then you're like, okay, go. You're like, all right, do my turn. I'm so excited to do this.
Absolutely.
So we do see a Brother in Arms going to come out here, really good at blocking dominated attacks. Just another show of how good that card can be.
Absolutely.
Hamilton down to 20 here.
Yeah, no on hit though, and I think that's critical. Certainly, the unpreventable damage is problematic. Here's that spot we were talking about for Hamilton, the 8 attack with the Wounded Bull.
You see the little grin on his face. I love it. I'm
Jacket
sure
lined with Wounded Bulls, just Wounded Bull crown.
I wonder how many times this card had to get read this weekend.
Many.
I know I would have,
Many,
for sure.
Many times.
Amulet of Ice developed this turn as well for Michael, something that could come into play a little bit later in the game. Possibly as early as next turn during Ryan's turn.
Yeah, we'll see.
Some disruption is kind of what Michael needs. He hasn't really been able to do that yet this game.
That is true. That is true. But still keeping pace on damage. Like, this is not the traditional Icelander deck. It will not disrupt as much as the more traditional lists we're going to see later on in this top 8. But it will present 7 and 8 on almost every single turn. And I think every single turn that we've played thus far, it's been an attack for 7 or 8. That'll wear you down. Another Tear Asunder in Ryan Rich's hand.
Really contemplating how to play this.
Such an interesting state of the Flesh and Blood meta where just numbers. Numbers matter a lot. 8 is as big as Michael Hamilton has access to. That's what he wants to play. And it seems simple. No on hit, just attacking for 8. But the implications of that 8 are vast in Michael Hamilton's list. They put your opponent in a problematic spot as you develop, as you get to that point where you can start threatening that Icelander arcane damage, which hasn't been part of his plan whatsoever thus far. Just no moon activations, no arcane damage being fired off, has not mattered at all.
Going to go back over to Ryan Rich here. Looks like we're going to have a Winter's Bite to start off the turn here. Talking about disruption, Ryan's got a little bit of it himself as well. Got some Frostbite Generation in his deck. Make you have to discard cards here when you don't really want to.
Yeah, Hamilton choosing options here. Would prefer to find a setup that leaves him with some resources floating. Able to play that other copy of Wounded Bull I think I see in his hand on the next turn. Probably wants to take a little damage here, get the extra buff on that Wounded Bull. So just figuring out all the permutations. No such thing as a simple decision in Flesh and Blood. Every decision you make matters. It has ripples throughout the game. It carries forward to the next turn. It carries forward to your offense when you're playing defense. Everything interlocked in a beautiful web, and no one better at deciphering that web, perhaps in the world, than Michael Hamilton.
Going to pitch an Emeritus Scolding here, get some resources. Let's see what he wants to do. He's going to pay for the Winter's Bite.
Yeah, just going to leave those resources floating for the time being. That's time for another Footsteps.
This one not dominated again, but still just a huge attack.
Yeah, both these players just focused on producing numbers. They want 7s. They want 8s. That alone is a sense of disruption.
There we go. Attack in for 8. See how does Michael want to deal with this. Okay, we're going to get a block from hand.
Yeah, that Ice Eternal not quite useful yet. Don't have anything like Frost Hex built up. I'm curious how much Michael Hamilton looks towards Frost Hex in this matchup. Again, when you think about the default planning against Oldhim, it used to be a lot of, oh, I'll pile up Frost Hexes, I'll play the long game, I'll look to one-turn kill you. That's not how this matchup goes anymore. The world has changed. 5 damage.
There's a world of a bunch of ice where you're trying to create stuff, and Wounded Bull has just been charging
Yep,
through.
blasting through those frostbites and other ice impediments.
So 5 going to leak over here towards Michael. It's going to go down to 15 here. Light Total getting a little precarious, a little low.
Yeah, you're at like the quasi-danger zone. You're certainly not going to get picked off by a single dominated attack.
But you're starting to have that in your mind.
One or two more of those, yeah. And as expected, Michael Hamilton just pulls a Wounded Bull out of his pocket, slaps it on the table.
Out of his jacket that he's got copious amounts of them for.
Yep, just lined with Wounded Bulls.
I think I'm going to go get a couple copies of Wounded Bull and get Michael to sign them.
That's a good idea. Certainly putting this card on the map.
Double block from Ryan Rich there. Going to keep his life to a little bit higher, stay at 18. Which plays into the Wounded Bull plan perfectly.
Yeah, Michael Hamilton says, fine. My next Wounded Bull will also attack for 8.
Oh, a Command and Conquer here. This is another big, impactful attack. We do have a card in the arsenal for Michael. Is it a card that he can play?
You know, I got to say, Tannen, I'm very much in favor of the Winter's Whale Stalagmite setup in this matchup. Hasn't mattered. Neither has been used. Things have played out in such a bizarre fashion here. No Waning Moon activations, no arcane damage whatsoever presented towards Ryan Rich. So theoretically, could have skipped the Null Rune for this match and been in a totally different spot.
I do love that both the players have decided we're going to have heroes with equipment and our weapons / shield slots. Whatever. We're not gonna use them.
It has been very strange thus far, but you know, strange deck from Michael Hamilton. A new way of playing this matchup. And these players are adapting on the fly, trying to figure out their plans.
There was a resource floating here, but no third counter on that Tunic yet, so no real threat of pummel there as well. So that's a big spot for Michael to not have to think about that or even worry about that spot because we haven't really seen a pummel yet.
Yeah, and here's our first shot of arcane damage headed the way of Ryan Rich, and it's a good one. It's a fused Ether Ice Vein. That means also likely to grab a card from hand unless we find something like an Oasis Respite. Have not seen any thus far.
There's also that Amulet of Ice here as well this turn that I have to believe is probably going to get fired up. We see Michael be very, very patient with them in the past.
Absolutely. Also, no Oasis Respite in Ryan Rich's deck, actually. So not going to see that one in this matchup.
Looks like we've got a little bit of damage prevention from Ryan. Let's see how much he's going to take here.
Yeah, going to go ahead and pay for that Aether Ice Vein effect. Moving to Arsenal with that Ice Bolt at the ready. Nice turn there from Michael Hamilton.
Yeah, since 2 cards came out of Ryan Rich's hand here, I think he can safely save this Amulet of Ice, it looks like, for later.
Sure, that makes sense to me. Also had the resources ready to pay for that Amulet of Ice, so you don't want to give Ryan Rich the chance to use it. But time for another big attack. It's Command and Conquer again with the card ready to go in Arsenal. Now, Michael Hamilton can, of course, play that card. We know it's an Ice Bolt, so some protection there. He just has to decide how he wants to deal with this damage, which also matters quite a bit.
Yeah, every decision is so big here. Both the players at 15. If anyone makes any kind of misstep here, it could be the game. You know, I see a Scar for Scar in Hamilton's hand here, too, so he's got to be thinking about possibly how much damage I want to take off this, how much do I deal, because if he fires off 5 at Ryan, and Ryan takes a decent bit of it, how much does he take from Command and Conquer? Because if his life total is lower, then he could possibly put together a pretty big attack on the way back. Or does it even matter giving go again to the Scar for Scar?
It's a good question, Tannen, and I'm going to let Michael Hamilton answer it because no one is better at answering that than he is. It looked like he was thinking about going ahead and firing off that Ice Bolt. You saw him reach for the Channel Lake Frigid he has in hand, maybe doing a little pitching. Does have another Ether Ice Vein in hand, and that could be a really nice next turn to go ahead and activate that Amulet of Ice if he's able to find a fuse. However, may not have the resources to do so and fire off this Ice Bolt. Does have the Tunic at the ready. That could be important for making a nice combination turn here. Yeah, step 1, Ice Bolt.
Channel Lake Frigid is going to get pitched here. There's going to be a resource floating. This is going to generate a Frostbite over to the side of Ryan Rich.
Yeah, not up to matter, but is able to use that floating resource to prevent a little bit of damage here.
Probably not going to be relevant, but you know, there is a Frost Hex here, but this is going to be doing blocking duty. So it looks like I think 3 is going to go through, and this is a, say, if the life totals are going to be updated, I think Michael Hamilton is going to have less life after this than Ryan Rich does.
Yeah, I'm not sure he cares too much. I anticipate we'll
Right.
probably see a Waning Moon activation here.
It does look like it's going to be Waning Moon with the floating resource
Yeah,
and
good
the
time
tunic.
for that.
It's going to bring Ryan down to 10.
And I think what we're going to see here is just Scar for a Scar Arsenal, that Ether Ice Vein set up for the next turn.
Yeah, very good setup.
And then try and get that big shot of disruption. The Amulet of Ice in conjunction with the Ether Ice Vein could be enough to let Michael Hamilton really seize the tempo, put his foot on the gas, and take this game. So here's step one, Scar for a Scar, attacking for 4.
Yeah, if you're Ryan, you got to be worried just a little bit here. You start to take a little bit of arcane damage as well as physical. You're down to 10. You're facing 4 here. You don't really want to get in too low of a life total because at that point, every time you make a play, you're worried about Michael killing you in response.
Yeah, I also think Ryan's at a spot where he's got to get value out of this Stalagmite. Has to do some blocking with it because he's not going to get many more chances. We know what Michael Hamilton's endgame looks like. It's not going to be about damage. The damage needs to be prevented earlier in the game. And so maybe a bit of a misstep there, could have had a deeper hand. But also, you need something to do with that hand. The context of the hand always matters. If there weren't good options, it really doesn't matter. But we do see a bit of go again here in Light and Strike. And I think this is the spot where Ryan goes, all right, I need to present either lethal or something very close to lethal on this turn, or I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. Hamilton does have his own Enlightened Strike in hand. And again, this is a scenario where if this Stalagmite is not here, I think Michael Hamilton's next turn is pretty easy. You're going to use that Enlightened Strike. You're also going to give it go again. You're going to use the Aether Ice Vein and just make a mess of your opponent's next turn, as well as probably threatening lethal. That shield is probably doing just a little bit to slow that plan down. Hamilton maybe devaluing that Enlightened Strike just a little bit due to its presence.
Yeah, you may even see possibly block here.
Would not shock me. So kind of a passive effect of Stalagmite on this turn, perhaps, for Michael Hamilton. Thinking it through. Of course, let's not forget about those Storm Striders, Tanner. It's easy to lose sight of that card when we're dealing with Michael Hamilton's list because is very prone
he is
to
still
attacking.
a wizard, yeah.
Is a wizard, yeah. And anytime Ryan Rich does not have a card in hand, you pop those Storm Striders, you fire off not only your card from Arsenal, but a card from hand, and the game could just be over. Yeah, and follow-up here is just Winter's Wail. I appreciate the impact of this Frostbite here. I do think that can matter quite a bit.
And Ryan is wondering, he's like, please don't kill me in response.
Yeah, no blue card in Arsenal for Hamilton, so should he want to fire something off here, I think it's going to require a little bit more. I do think it was a red Ether Ice Vein, but like we said, Storm Strider is always an option.
So it looks like a blue Ether Ice Vein is going to be making it to the pitch zone.
Oh, I was incorrect. It was a blue Ether Ice Vein in Arsenal, and that's pretty big for Michael Hamilton.
I think Ryan's stomach just sank.
Yeah, that is a huge amount of threat here. In conjunction with what we know to be a red Ether Ice Vein in hand. Very threatening salvo here from Michael Hamilton.
He's going to go ahead and fuse it as well.
Yeah, and that Aether Hell also ready to go.
Ryan down to 6.
And I wonder if Hamilton sees an opening here with no resources available. This could just be it, should he have the damage in conjunction with those Storm Striders. All of this responding to that Frostbite token, avoiding its tax. Going to go ahead and activate Waning Moon.
Yeah, this is going to get another 3 in. Ryan with no way to take care of this.
Yeah, Ryan falls to 3 here. 1 resource floating. Looks like it's time for Crown of Seeds. A little bit of damage prevention for Ryan. This is going to bring the card to hand, though, and that means Amulet of Ice able to go ahead and go after it. Very nice opportune play from Michael Hamilton. Going to clear out that Arsenal on the next turn. Now this 3 damage from Waning Moon. 1 of it's going to be prevented alongside the shield, meaning only 1 leaking through. Ryan Rich falls to 5. Now it's time to pop Storm Striders. Has that energy potion at the ready. Going to go ahead, use that. And it's time for Ether Ice Vein, and that is going to get the fist bump, and Michael Hamilton moving on